we only have a few days left and 2024 is over. End of the year book tag. Hello, thank you for joining. Thank you for having an interest in what I have to say about books. I'm gonna be doing an end of the year book tag with prompts that I mainly got from Sarah Caroli and Katie Whitrook. This is completely my opinion and feel free to have a differing opinion, it's just for fun. So first off, I'm gonna start with what was an underdog book. That award goes to Defy the Night by Bridget Kimmerer. In my opinion, I didn't really see this book being hyped up a lot, so I think it is kind of an underdog book even if it might be popular. But I first got this recommendation from watching a TikTok from Lauren Roberts, the author of Powerless. She recommended it, said it was fast-paced, so I was like, okay, gonna try it. I read this while I was in Europe and I really liked it. It's a young adult fantasy romance where the female main character is trying to save her land from an illness. And it's an illness plaguing the entire society, kind of like what we all went through a few years ago or a couple of years ago, depending on how you look at it. The author, Bridget Kimmerer, wrote this book before the blank-19 happened. And I think it was a really good read. Our female main character is really tough and smart, and our male main character is a handsome prince. And she's just basically trying to help the poor people of her society get their hands on this moonflower elixir which will help them with the sickness, which of course only the rich people really have access to. So I would say give this one a go. It's a trilogy, so if you like this book, you have 2 more books that you can read through. So thank you, Lauren Roberts, for recommending this book. Favorite covers of the year. This was by far the longest list I had to cut from in order to narrow down my choices. If I could, I would pick 8 covers, but that doesn't make this fun. I'm gonna say that my favorite cover of the year is Welcome to the Hyunandong Bookshop by Hwang Borum. It's basically like Legends and Lattes, but not high fantasy. And I would say both are about the female main character quitting their pretty much career to open up a coffee shop or a bookshop. In this case, our female main character quits her corporate job to open up a bookshop in Korea. And it's just cozy and you can see how she's progressing with her bookshop, getting her regulars, putting a cafe in there so that she gets a barista, and some other little tactics to help move business along. It's really, if I could do it and I wasn't such a scaredy cat to do it, then I would do it. But also something about this cover is just super cozy too, so I really like it. The back is pretty much the same thing as well. It looks exactly the same. It's not a continuous cover. It's just that. And actually the author has a similar story to the main character in that she quits her corporate job to become a writer. Okay, an overhyped book you read. Please don't come for me, but I'm gonna have to say Funny Story by Emily Henry. I'm sorry. Not that it was a bad book, but I just think it was overhyped. Let me justify myself, because in general, I think Emily Henry's books are romance books. So the female main character and the male main character, I just thought that they worked better as friends as opposed to a couple. It just felt like the love was forced. Also, Miles, the male main character, did not appreciate him, really, actually. I'm not giving any spoilers away, but he gets so much attention from people around him and people love him, blah, blah, blah. But you know what that makes? A distraction. So he's constantly being held up by other people who want his attention, and he just doesn't give what I feel like is attention needed to the female main character, which is gonna be his soon-to-be lover, right? There's like this one scene where I think they go to a club and he comes back from the bar trying to get the drinks, and apparently some older women have taken to him, so they leave like lipstick marks on his cheeks because they kissed him, because they just thought he was so cute. Okay, what? Just because they're older, does that make it okay? No, I wouldn't want my boyfriend to go to the bar, take forever to come back with the drink just because other women wanted his attention and he comes back with lipstick marks on his cheeks. That's not something that I would love to have. But he was portrayed like a very well-liked, endearing character, but to me, that sounds annoying. And what about the times where he's not good at texting back? That's also annoying. Didn't appreciate it, would not want to be with a guy like that. Sorry. Am I being too harsh? It's not like I hated the characters. I read romance books to be swooning, and I wasn't swooning. He wasn't making me swoon. This review is making it seem like this book is terrible and I hated this book, but that's not the case. I just had a couple of problems with it. It was still an okay read. That being said, the most disappointing book of the year goes to The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore. I feel like I've said this time and time again where I didn't understand why it was so popular. I audiobooked this and I didn't read it with my eyes physically, so it may have been different if I had, but I didn't really think that this was a good book. I think this was disappointing because for a while I was just seeing this all over my TikTok and everybody was saying how they loved it, and maybe this belongs in the overhyped category, but this was kind of disappointing for me in that I was expecting like a really nice cozy romance read, but instead it was a okay, what's going on here? I think also what I had an issue with is that because I listened to it on the audiobook, the narrator sounded a little bit older than what the characters in the book were, so that kind of made me not be into the book fully. I didn't feel fully immersed. In Powerless by Lauren Roberts, the audiobook has both the guy and the girl reading the two different points of views, and the voices sound age appropriate, so it was much easier to be fully immersed. Whereas this one, she was reading for both points of views and she sounded a little bit older, so it wasn't as fully immersible. But also the story, I felt like it was kind of unfair for her because the whole premise of the story is that she moves to a new town and she's basically there to settle her aunt's cafe, which her aunt has kind of left her to take responsibility over. So when she gets there, I felt like the guy was kind of just already trying to make her make a commitment to staying in this town for forever, and she doesn't even know because she just got there. It just felt a little rushed to me and I felt sorry for her. On the other side, a book that surprised you, and that would be Finlay Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. I used to mainly read mystery books as a kid, and as an adult, I now mainly read romance and fantasy romance. So little did I know that this women's sleuths book was gonna get me. This was such a good read, and it was jam-packed with so much plot. So much was happening in the very first few chapters, and I appreciated that. And I really liked it a lot, so I would recommend Finlay Donovan is Killing It. The whole series. I mean, yes, I have not read the second book and on, but I will, and I'll let you guys know if it's good or not. Favorite new author to me is gonna be Ashley Poston. I really didn't know about this author. I didn't know about this book, but once I read it, I was floored. I really did not expect this book to be that good. And then I find out about the 7-Year Slip, and I'm really interested in reading that too because that book has even better reviews than this one. So I think in general, this author is gonna be an auto buy for me. A book I feel like I finally read. That'll have to go to The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book had so much hype. I was literally the only one in the booktube community who hasn't read this book, but I finally read it and I felt like, oh, I finally know what it's about. And next year, this category will probably go to the ACOTAR series that I purchased recently, but for now, this year, it goes to Fourth Wing. Longest and shortest book I read. The shortest book is gonna be Only Santa's in the Building by Alexis Daria. That has a total of 65 pages. It's a little novella for the Christmas season. And then the longest book I read is gonna be Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. That book has 680 pages. I read it as an ebook, so I couldn't physically see how thick that would be, but I guess, wow, it was a pretty long book apparently. It feels like a common theme for dark academia books to be longer. A book you wish you could erase your memory of and read again. That's gonna have to go to Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I feel like I keep talking about this book in all of my videos, but it is truly that good. Let me get it. It's a woman's literary fiction. She's a brilliant chemist in the 1960s, and she's going through sexism and she's going through hardships because no one's taking her seriously because she's a woman. But then of course life happens and then situations arise, and somehow she gets a gig as a TV show host on a cooking show. But because she's a chemist, she's really chemical about it, and she really teaches people how food science works. It was really funny, but there were also really some shocking moments that I was like, oh my gosh. So I feel like this left a lasting impression on me. Unpopular book I loved and vice versa. Okay, so an unpopular book I loved, it's gonna go to Zodiac Academy by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. It's not that this book is super unpopular, it's that this book has controversial opinions. I can see that readers are on very opposite sides of the spectrum and there's not much middle. It sounds like either people really don't like it or really love it. And I fall on the love it side. I thought this was a very fun read. And even though I really liked it, I can also see why people don't. This series basically follows two sisters and the chapters go back and forth between the sisters. We almost have a Harry Potter situation here where they both grew up with hardships and then they find out that they actually have magical powers. Strong ones. So basically the equivalent of Hagrid takes them to this Zodiac Academy to hone their powers, learn how to use them, and possibly take back the throne because their parents, who are now deceased, were the king and queen, so they are actually royal. But because the parents are deceased, the royal throne was basically divided into 4 different families, all of which have handsome sons. So yes, those 4 princes also attend this school and are trying to bully them out of it, so that the girls go back to the mortal world and the 4 sons can claim their power. But it's kind of nice to see them overcome the obstacles and show the guys that they have more power and they are stronger than them. Okay, a popular book I didn't love, I'm so sorry, but Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. It's not that I didn't like the book, it was fine. I just didn't think it was good as everyone else thought it was. The male main character is planning to donate one of his organs to the female main main character's brother. But at the time, they're in this like very ambiguous romantic, not romantic situationship, and he doesn't even know if it's gonna work out with her in the end. To me, I felt so bad for the guy because if that were me, I would want to donate to someone I didn't know so that things don't get complicated. Because I know he's doing it out of the goodness of his heart and to pay it forward because his mom had an organ transplant, but also it really messes with your mind if you're doing it for someone you know and you also don't know how things are gonna go with that person. But other than that, it was an okay read, but I just didn't love it. Alright, next category, coziest vibes. That's gonna definitely go to Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Between the two, I can't decide if my side fantasy is gonna be opening up a bookshop or opening up a coffee shop. In general though, if I had to pick between the two on which book I like better, I think I'll have to pick Legends and Lattes. It might just be the deprivation of coffee, but I could just smell the coffee as she was making it. If you've watched my other videos, you might already know, but I'm currently pregnant and I've decided to give up coffee for this pregnancy. So I'm having a difficult time because I used to drink it every day. Most unique book. I'm gonna give this to two different books because they are in two different genres. I feel like those are different. So for the romance genre where it's unique, I'm gonna give it to Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. Generally in a romance book, you're gonna have this meet cute and they're gonna have this flirtation thing going on and then some third act conflict and then they're gonna make up and kiss, right? So sometimes it may be difficult to find a unique part to that kind of storyline. Not for Catherine Center because she's really good at making unique storylines. I think for The Bodyguard too, that was pretty unique. So Hello Stranger is unique in that our female main character gets into an accident which causes her not to be able to recognize faces. It's a temporary medical condition that she has. So because of that, she's not able to recognize her Romeo. And it creates all this misunderstanding, but I just thought the story itself was really unique. Now for fantasy-wise, I thought Babel by R.F. Kuang was the most unique. There was just so much thought put into this world that I thought was unique. Because the whole reason Babel, which is an institution within a school, works is because they use these silver bars to basically function society. So whatever you need done, you put the right words into this bar and it turns into magic, letting it function in the way you intend. So it could hold up a bridge, it can make traffic lighter. It can literally do anything you set it to do as long as you have the right words and the right translation and the person doing this inscribing on the silver bars is fluent in both languages. Tell me that's not unique. Next category, most unexpected surprise. And that'll have to go to The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Of course it's gonna go to a mystery thriller book. I don't know, I guess. I just was really wowed by this book. It was such a good turn of events. Did not expect that to happen at all. Like The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, I kind of expected that. Like that was one of the thoughts in my head. But for The Housemaid, was not expecting that at all. And The Housemaid is basically what it sounds like. The female main character is a housemaid working for a couple in their home. And then weird stuff happens. Alright, happiest book is gonna go to When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This is such a scrumptious delight of muffin chocolate cake. That doesn't even make sense. This is such a good book. Of course, even if it's a romance book, it's gonna have its conflicts, but in general, this is such a happy vibe. I mean, can't you tell by the cover? It's just gonna be giving you a happy-go-lucky time. If you want a happy time, read a Sarah Adams book. The most frustrating book I read this year, that is gonna have to go to Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I feel like I keep ripping this book apart or this series apart in my videos. It's not terrible, I just don't care. I mean, granted, it's in this category, so yes, it was a little frustrating. I was frustrated by the characters. Why can't she just make a decision? Why does he have to act that way? What are you guys doing? But anyways, I read the second book and that was also a little frustrating. Favorite book couple of the year. It's gonna sound a little weird to you, but it's from a novella, Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood. I just love that couple, that dynamic. He was pining for her after all these years. It's just so cute. I mean, she likes him too, but she feels like she has her own problems, so she's not really wanting to start a romantic relationship with him. But I just liked how he was pining for her from the very beginning. It was just so sweet. And for that long too. Best book boyfriend. How do you pick the best book boyfriend? There are so many good book boyfriends, but if I had to, Shatter Me by Tahara Mafi, Aaron Warner. I mean, I didn't think as much of him in this first book, but when I read the novella, Destroy Me, after this first one, okay, fine, Aaron, you win. And I also liked that it was a male character that I wasn't expecting, but in the end, I'm rooting for because he's just that sweet. Next category, most wholesome book I read this year. I'm gonna have to give that to Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. That book was the most wholesome book I read this entire year. It was so good, and she is just a lovable character. The characters in her book, her feelings, her grandma, just everything all combined. It was just such a wholesome book, and I hope that the next succeeding books are really good too. But those are all the categories for this end of the year book tag. Thank you so much if you joined me this entire journey for the entire Bookmas for 12 days. I had a good time reviewing all of the books that I read this year, and I just realized how much I read. So I appreciate you being here and watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.